to this computer. Okay, so let's share my screen. And I'm going to share screen 2. Okay, everyone can see my screen, right? Okay, so yeah, what we did last week was we did the EC2 and S3, which is in the storage. Again, all of these are services on AWS. Most of them I am not familiar with. A lot of them are very specific and they keep adding more. But what I'm going to go into this week is Lambda functions and API gateways. So Lambda functions, also known as like cloud functions, are ways to just run code in the cloud. So instead of having your code run on the EC2 instance, and it would be constantly running a virtual machine in the background, what you can use is a Lambda. A Lambda will run code only when you want it to. So it's a way you can very cheaply and efficiently run programs or run very small snippets of programs. So let's see, are people following along? Is everyone in their AWS console? Okay, cool. So we're gonna hit the Lambda. And I've got a sample function here, but you probably won't see anything. Also, I found what AWS does, a lot of times when you go to the page for the first time, there'll be a whole bunch of stuff there. They'll show you tutorials or things like that that kind of can get you up to speed. So yeah, there's a dashboard here where you can look at the Lambda functions, but what we actually want to do is create a function. So let me just have my notes here. So what we first do is create a function. And you see this page where you can actually use a blueprint and things. I've never used any of these, their app repository or their blueprint. I've always just created the functions from scratch. And what that means is you just get an empty function to begin with. So you can just name your function, which I think I already had one called data processing. I'm going to call this one data transaction. And so this is the name of your function, and this is the runtime. So all of this, all of these different, these are different languages, pretty much the runtimes you can run the code in. And there's a lot of them. They keep adding more. I did run into a problem where I was dealing with AWS. I think it was a year and a half or 2 years ago, and I had a Node.js 8 application and they stopped supporting it. So yeah, I was going to show a tutorial in that, but I wasn't able to get it running because they stopped support. So yeah, you usually want to choose a language that will stay supported. Like I probably wouldn't choose Python 2.7. If you are, I don't know why you're still using Python 2.7. But I think they're ending support. I don't know, does anybody know if they're ending support? I always get, when I try to run Python 2.7 code, I get warnings. So for this tutorial, we're gonna do Python 3.6. So that's the runtime. And permissions, you can actually set the default. These, again, you can set up a role if you want your Lambda function to, for example, interface with that S3 bucket. You can make a role for it that gives it permission to do that. Because we're just going to run a Lambda function and hit it with a API call and pretty much just kind of view what we're doing in logs, we can use the basic permissions because we just want it to run, just as an example that the Lambda function will run. Again, if we go more into this series, if people want to see more, we can go into the more depth about what you can do with Lambda functions. So once you get this, you can create a function. Oh, and it says down here, Lambda will create the role. So it creates this role, which is just the basic permission to upload logs to the CloudWatch. And that we'll look at later so you can see if there is a problem in the Lambda function and what's going on. So we hit create function. Sometimes it takes a little bit just to spin everything up. So we'll wait. Okay, so now we see the Lambda function. And you can actually see this placeholder code here. This is, you can actually code right here if you wanted to code some Python up in the Lambda function. I actually coded in PyCharm, just basic functionality that we'll be using. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just copy and paste this code in the chat. For you watching the recording, I'll also put it up on the video description and the Slack channel where I post this video. Whoop, and I see there's a chat. Oh, that's an old chat. All right. I'm trying to, I don't know if my mic's gonna work, so I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this code and put it in chat. When I bring the chat on the screen, you can't see it, right?
No.
No, we
Oh,
can't.
okay, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. All right, so I'm posting this in chat. Oh, and I'll bring it on the screen too. So basically what I'm doing is I just have one Python function called Lambda handler. And it just has two parameters that are actually injected in by the Lambda. And what I'm basically doing is just taking your query from the URL and making it into a JSON and then giving a HTTP response. So that's pretty much what this is doing. This is again, just a very simple example because we only have an hour to do this, but you can think of how you can use this code to maybe inject something in a database, to access a database, to pull data out. You can also, like I said, interface with the S3. That might be what I do as we expand everybody's cloud knowledge on what's possible, just to go through, yeah, what you can do. But this is just gonna be a very simple example. So what I'm going to do is take that code and just paste it here in this Lambda function. So it's there. This is also, if you code someplace else, you can kind of test it out too. And once you have the code there, you can hit save. Okay, so now we have this Lambda function. That's really it. You can really, any Python code you can put here. You can have multiple functions in the same object, the data transaction, that you can call later. But that's really what the function is. It's just a place to run simple code at your will. And you can see right now there's no triggers in this. It's pretty much the Lambda function is just happening here. Okay, is everyone following along? Get a thumbs up. Anyone having trouble? Speak up if you are. Okay, okay, I see a thumbs up. Okay, so next we're going to go up to services and we're going to go to API gateway. I'm just going to open it in a new tab. Okay, so I have a few samples here. But we're going to create a new API. And there's a few different options here. We're just going to choose a basic REST API because we're going to be using a URL endpoint just to call this API. So we're going to build a new one. Want to make sure it's REST. You can make sure you're creating a new API and call your API. So I already have one called data API. I'm going to call it data transaction.
Hey Tim, there are
Yes.
two REST APIs. There's one.
Oh, so I
think
yeah, we want the public. The private, I think, is if you're running in a virtual server. So you're in your own virtual private cloud. That's I'm pretty sure that's the distinction. But yeah, I always choose the one that doesn't say private, or at least for this example, choose the one that doesn't say private.
Cool.
Yep, and so then you name your API. Make sure you're just on new API. And for this endpoint type, it again is, I think, due to access, we're just gonna put on regional. Yeah, actually now that I see this, because it's the endpoint type, I don't know if the other REST API, why it's private, I don't know. Yeah, I can look into that. But yeah, just for this tutorial, just go with this one. So yeah, once you name it, you could also put a description. I'm just going to leave it blank for now for the sake of time, and create API. So now you'll see this, just a blank API. There's nothing here. What we're first going to do is create a resource for this API. And let's see, we're just going to call this data. And so this is actually the endpoint. So we have, your basic URL, which is the IP address .com/, and then the API endpoint. So this is the API endpoint is /data. And we can leave everything else as default because we're not doing anything like web-based. The cores, I don't know if anyone has had to deal with cores, but it's cross, what is it? It has to do with accessing different resources over different IP addresses. But we don't have to worry about that right now. But yeah, this if you're making a website or making access to a website with APIs, cores can be a major problem. So once you do this, you can create resource. And now you see here, there's this endpoint, but there's nothing there. Next, we want to create a method, which you do create method. And for this, we're just going to do a get method, because that's pretty much what our Python code is doing. Oh, see you, Chabot. Okay, so once you choose the right verb that you want, you hit the check mark, and it will start creating it. Now, what you're doing with the this endpoint, you're saying what you want to run. So you can run, so it's default to the Lambda function. You can also run HTTP if, for example, you had your EC2 instance running with an API on that EC2 instance, you can use that. But we're going to use the Lambda function. Oh, you can also just hit AWS services as well. So there's a lot of functionality here, but in this tutorial, we're just going to use the Lambda function that we created. You want to make sure that your Lambda region is the correct one where you made the Lambda. I think it defaults to your default. So this should just be set to the one you just made the Lambda in. So, and then we need to choose the Lambda function. So if you start typing, you should see them. So I named it data transaction, I believe. Yeah, the other one was data process. And you can leave the default timeout. It's just, the when it will time out the request. Okay, so once you do that, save. Okay, and see this, you're giving API gateway permissions to invoke your Lambda function. It's just a warning letting you know that you're doing that. Okay, now you see this is the basic kind of design of your Lambda function, where the request comes in, it triggers the Lambda, and then you get the response. And if the response is correct, HTTP status 200. And so what we can do now actually is, whoops, we're going to go to this and oh, actually, yes. So first, before we can actually hit it, we need to deploy, because right now you have the Lambda here, but it's actually just sitting here kind of in like a staging region. So in actions, you have the deploy API. You can also import your own API if you have an API from elsewhere. You can also do some other things like enable cores, but we're just going to deploy this API. You have different staging areas. This is for if you are developing a large API that's currently going to be developed or going to be integrated and running already somewhere where it's in production. You can have a test development and a production environment. And so those are stages. So if you wanted to put your API out there and just have it be tested before it's actually out there into production, you can have different staging areas. So I'm just going to call this test stage. And again, you can make a stage description and a deployment description. I'm just going to leave it blank. All right, so now your API is out there, and you should see a URL up here. This is the base URL. You actually want to go in here and get the URL for your GET request, which should just be the /data or whatever you named it. Okay, so now we have a running API. So next, what I'm going to do is go to Postman. I don't know if you've used Postman before, but you can also just use a web browser. But I was explaining Postman today, and I know some people might not know what it is. So I'm just going to explain how to use it with APIs and for testing APIs. So actually, first, we'll just hit the URL endpoint here just to see what happens. Okay, so we have an error here if you just hit that endpoint. Hold on, let me move my zoom bar. So we get a key error, actually, because we're not giving it the parameters that we need. Let's pretend I did that on purpose, just to show you what would happen if the parameters weren't there. But in this Lambda function, we're actually saying we want these queryStringParameters. So that's dataId, dataType, and data. And so we set those parameters up here with question mark, and what is it? Data ID equals 777, and I think it's just type equals RIS data, and the actual data. And we'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just as an example. And I think that's correct. What am I doing wrong here? Data ID. Hold on, let me see here. Yeah, that should work. Live demos. Huh. Let me try it in this. So was anybody able to get it working? Wonder if there's a problem in my Python code. There shouldn't be because I tested it earlier. So test data, it is a GET request. Okay, and let me take this part, the query string. So yeah, in Postman, you can actually see the key here, which makes it real nice because it puts all the parameters there. And it is a GET request. And I'm going to send. Huh, it's not getting data ID. Key error. Is everyone getting the same error? I don't know if you're following along. Let's see.
Yeah, I got a similar error when I put it in the URL directly.
Okay. What did I forget to do? Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So hold on, let's go back.
Data type with T capital?
No, so I think it's a setting I didn't do. So let's see, actions. So I think it's on the GET request. Okay, here, wait. I'm going to delete this GET request and edit method. No. Okay. Oh, delete method. Okay, let's delete that method and try to re-put it in. So create method and then do get. Yep, okay. So it's actually this checkbox right here. Use Lambda proxy integration. So this is kind of like using dependency injection in our Lambda function, which is actually putting that GET request in the object, the event object that's in our Python code. So that needs to be checked in order for the event to be recognized in our Python code as this Lambda event, as the query string from that URL. And so yeah, so if you delete that, there might be a way to change it in the settings, but if you just delete it, you should be able to get it working now. So, and then we'll save.
How do you delete it? Where was the delete
So
option?
under actions, delete method.
Oh, it doesn't show actions for me. It just shows create over there.
Oh, did you deploy it already? Under resources, you don't have a actions bar here?
Okay. It was in stages. Now I went to
Oh,
resources.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm.
And then I'll deploy the API again, put it back in the test stage and deploy. Okay. So now if I hit this endpoint, it's still giving me that. Oh, I wonder, I bet the URL changed. It doesn't look like it did. Oh, okay. Maybe it did. Yep, so now if you put in those parameters, it should work, where you see the data just in the HTTP response. So, and I'm gonna test in Postman, which is nice because you can see the data and see the response. There we go. And so this is a GET request. You can also do a POST request where if you change the Python function, you'll be able to post that data somewhere, either like a database or into a S3 bucket, things like that. In this example, I didn't set up that. This is just basic examples of API handling. Now, if you go back to your Lambda, yep, so you can actually see the designer now. You see the Lambda is actually going to this API gateway. And this API gateway, they're connected. You can use this designer to add different triggers as well. Instead of just the API, you can do things like, I think S3 is on here. Yeah, S3 is on here. So you can use the Lambda to be triggered by, say, adding a file to an S3 bucket. So say if you have a bunch of data that is constantly being streamed into an S3 bucket and you want it to process that data live, you could say, this bucket, which this bucket, if anything is put in here, let's see, what is that? Oh, event type, what happens? So let's see, post. Okay, and then there's different options for that as well, where if you name your, if you have different folder structures, you can do certain things inside that bucket. So, that's the other thing I wanted to show is, yeah, monitoring your Lambda function. So you can see here when you actually hit the Lambda function, what's actually happening. So here, I'm going to hit this again and go back to Lambda and hit refresh. We should be able to see, okay. Should be able to see logs. Maybe, oh, it's under CloudWatch. Okay, yeah, so if you go into services, if you want to see what's going on in your Lambda function, you can actually view the logs as well. So if you type CloudWatch and go to that service, it should automatically be set up for the Lambda functions by default. Tell me, Glenn, do you see something like this? Or does it show you? It might have you on the dashboard. But on the left, regardless of what you're seeing, you should be able to go to log groups on the left here.
There's CloudWatch, right?
Yep, CloudWatch. And then if you go to under logs and log group, you can actually see your Lambda functions. And this was the one I just ran, and you can actually see the logs from it. So let's see. yeah, so this was actually what happened, and you can see the data being put in. You can see the request. See the time. So let's see. So I'm going to clear this, refresh it. Let's clear it. Oh, there's no older logs. Let's hit it again. Let's do a different. Okay. All right, and now if we go back to cloud management and refresh, should see the logs. Oh, it's data transaction. Okay. There we go. That's why there's more logs there. Okay. So now we can see the failed attempts earlier when we were trying to hit that endpoint and it didn't work because we didn't include that Lambda integration checkbox. And then we can see it working. So we hit it with this request 3 times, and then we changed it. And so you can see all of the requests there. So this is how you would monitor if, say, you're using this Lambda function to process data and something went wrong. You can go into CloudWatch and see actually what went wrong and actually see the error messages. Okay. So that is it for my API gateway and Lambda function. Does anyone have questions just on Lambda functions? Lambda functions are pretty powerful just because of you don't actually need a virtual machine to then run code. I don't know the pricing. Let's see. Does it say pricing? I feel like Lambda functions, you get like 1 million transactions for free. Let's see. Free usage tier. Yeah, you get 1 million free requests per month. And 400,000 gigabytes per second of compute time per month. So yeah, if you're able to, I know this might not work in every use case, but if you're able to kind of compartmentalize your functions and be able to run them from the Lambda functions, it can be an extremely cheap and efficient way to run your code. Let's see. Wow, I didn't know it was 1 million requests. I thought it was 1 million requests a year, 1 million requests per month. Okay, and now if we go back to our API gateway, now there's nothing else there. So that's pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much what I had for today. I was kind of hoping one of you would have some code, but well, no one ran at that. So yeah, I guess what I can show too is how to set up GitHub Pages. Because I know people are looking for places to post their websites. It's actually super simple. Hold on, let's just bring this over here. And while I'm talking to you, you can continue to tinker around in Lambda EC2s and yeah, actually you can combine Lambdas and EC2s as well, where you have some instance and some code running on a Lambda. Again, with the integration of that S3 bucket, do some processing that, you know, the heavy compute processing in that S3 bucket as you change the data or as you process the data, save it in another S3 bucket. That bucket that can, as you add blobs to that bucket or as you add files to that bucket, have it trigger a Lambda function and then do things with those individual files. Let's see, okay. Next is GitHub Pages. Okay. So So this is just a GitHub repository I have just for making the shareable data. It's been up here for a little bit, but what I did recently, which I didn't know about, is if you create a new branch called GitHub or GH Pages, GitHub automatically makes a project-based GitHub IO page. So as long as you, oh yeah, this is a templating page that I was just testing out. If you put the code in here to host a page, it will be accessible. So it's accessible if we just go to github.io. No, wait, oh, it's Habits Lab, there we go. Because it's your, there we go. So this is just the organization GitHub page that I'm working on that will eventually post somewhere. But then if you do a slash and the actual project page, which was this shareable, I thought it would autocomplete.
Oh wow, that looks nice.
Yeah. Let's see. So it's a work in progress. It seems that it's always getting put on the back burner because there's always more pressing issues. So GitHub, also it links to our Twitter account. So our Twitter shows up there as well. And then if you do slash and then the project page, this is actually all the code from the other page. So it's actually the HTML, the JavaScript, and the CSS. I think I've done it before with like the Habits Lab page is with Jekyll, like a static website generation. I'm pretty sure this is just basic HTML. I know Chabot's not here, but I didn't read too much about this. I just kind of posted it here and hoped it would work, and it did. But yeah, so if you save the template, save the code in the GitHub Pages branch, it will just show up if you hit the right URL for it, which is actually pretty convenient as we want to make pages for certain studies. What's nice too is I believe it's in settings and GitHub Pages. Yeah, you can actually just add your custom domain. So if you do buy a domain or if we do buy a domain that's specific for your project, we can post it here, and it will automatically redirect. We have to do something on the URL end to allow it, to allow the redirection. But yeah, it makes it really simple and really easy to host static pages.
Oh, so it's using like GitHub's hosting space.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
So,
I can
yeah. So as you can't you can't host like Flask or anything that's computationally heavy that runs code in real time. You can run static sites like
like your personal website.
Right. Yeah, you can run your personal website. I actually, my personal website's hosted here with on GitHub with a redirect to the URL I bought, which is it's a lot cheaper. It's $12 a year instead of the paying for the
hosting and for
hosting. Yeah. Paying GoDaddy.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about it for me. I'm gonna stop.
There are some nice templates on Yugo for github.io. I think you can.
Yes. So here, I'm just gonna stop recording. If I can figure out. Stop share. Nope, that's stop share. How do I stop recording? Oh, here we go.